Hello, 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 and welcome back to yet another community watch party for the Pantheon developer update stream. That is a mouthful, but it never gets old. We are here, it's happening. Welcome back. Another month in the books, and we're all together again. Hope you're doing well this evening. I am in pretty good mood, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to be talking about tonight, or what we're going to be watching tonight and then discussing, which is NPC combat awareness. Now you may ask, Baz, what is NPC combat awareness? Well, in the last developer roundtable, Joppa talked about it a little bit, and said that it was kind of one of their next milestones in development. One of the things they were going to be focusing on at that time, that was about a month ago, was NPC combat awareness, which is basically how smart the NPCs are, basically. It's an aspect of AI and how they are able to identify the other NPCs that are around them and their states of being that they're in, and their health, and just making more informed decisions so that the NPCs hopefully are kind of coordinating and working together and strategizing, so to speak, just like we as players will be doing. Because, you know, one thing that has always kind of peeved me about MMOs in recent years is, really going back several years, is just how dumb the NPCs can be in some situations, and it kind of takes you out of the moment. It takes you out of the world, and it just reminds you that, you know, you're just playing against a computer. Like, these are not real orcs. You know, it takes you out of the moment, and it kind of trivializes it. It just makes it more mundane, more repetitive, less interesting, less exciting. So, you know, I don't necessarily expect Pantheon to have some of this like revolutionary, like hyper realistic AI or anything like that, but I'm always really interested, at least curious, to see how games are kind of making the NPCs a little bit smarter, behave a little bit more intelligently, because that you can really get into some really meta, like, you know, strategizing, keeping players on their toes, because they don't necessarily know exactly how an NPC is going to react, and they do things that surprise you. Like, surprises are just such when an NPC surprises you, like, that's such a good moment. That's such a satisfying and fun aspect of MMOs. So looking forward to what they're going to be having here tonight on that. Again, that is going to be starting up in 21 minutes right now. As usual, I just kind of boot things up a little early for a little pre-show. We're just going to hang out, see how you guys are doing before we really get into the meat of things. Because I have good intelligence that suggests that we're going to be actually seeing some examples of that NPC combat awareness actually in game. And the reason I know that, I don't have a super secret source or anything. Hey, Hypercrush. Hi, Animate Acumen. Welcome, guys. So one of the things I'm going to just talk about this for a little bit, because I don't think it's talked about often enough. One of the best aspects of being a VIP member in the community, which I think is no surprise, you know, you can go to my forum profile and you see that I am a VIP member. So that's not a secret. One thing, though, that's also not a secret, but is not talked about often enough, in my opinion, is the VIP Discord that VIPs have access to as soon as you pledge to the VIP level, and it baffles me that this isn't listed actually on the pledge page, because it's one of the best perks of being a VIP, in my opinion. And unlike pretty much every other perk on the pledge list, like, this is effective immediately after you pledge. Maybe not immediately, but like within a day or two of pledging, you get approved into the VIP Discord, and in there you can interact with the developers in real time. They're busy making the game, but it's not uncommon for them to pop into that VIP Discord, just chat, or sometimes they'll ask for feedback on certain things, and the specifics of it, just like anything VIP, are under NDA. But I think it's just, I just felt the need to point it out, because it's such a great, it's such a great, valuable part of being a VIP member. Again, I'm not here, I'm not sponsored. I'm not trying to like convince you to go and pledge for at the VIP level. I just figured I'd point it out because it is a pretty cool perk being a member, and sometimes you get advanced sneak peeks on things and hear news before everybody else, and sometimes you hear things that the general public never really ends up hearing, but sneak peeks on things like tonight's stream. And so if that's something that is interesting to you, might be something to keep in mind. Kelem says Jabba does pop in a lot. Yeah, it is amazing, actually, for as busy as he is. He does make a point to pop in there quite often, and several other devs do too. It's just it's just a cool atmosphere. Edimus187 says, I look forward to when they open it up for alpha. Me too. I think that's gonna be, everybody I think is looking forward to that pretty much, because regardless, even if you're maybe not pledged at all or just pledged at the beta level, like, that's gonna be such an important milestone for everyone, for the game, for the community. We'll all be able to celebrate that milestone and that progress. That's going to be I've talked about it before, but like that's going to be such a really pivotal, really interesting time. Even for VIPs who have already been able to experience the game firsthand. Like, I'm excited, really just awesome to think about the people who are going to be experiencing it for the very first time. I always try to keep that in mind. Like, as somebody, since I had the extreme privilege of really first getting my hands on the game in 2017, three and a half years ago, which is insane. And and having that just kind of like mind-blowing moment. And even though that was 3.5 years ago now, I still try to keep in mind like what that feeling was like. And it's honestly really cool to me to think that there will be so many people who are still going to have that feeling. And so yeah, alpha, that's going to be a turning point, for better or for worse. It seems like all the signs that I see now are pointing to that being a very positive turning point for the game. If it goes well, if it goes, like they hope and are planning, I think it's going to be like night and day. It's going to be kind of like a new era for the game. If they really capitalize on the positive press and really use that as a time to just get the word out there about, this is who we are, regardless of what maybe people who have never heard of it before. Because again, it's hard to believe for those of us who have been following it closely. We got to remember there's tons, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people who have never even heard of Pantheon and who would be interested in it if they knew about it, but just, you know, the marketing, it's been, I think, intentionally kind of low key. Like, it's been there, obviously, we're all here, but they haven't really ramped up the marketing yet, and so there's a lot of people out there that can still be discovering it for the first time, and also the people who have been aware of it, but just understandably just following a game in development just isn't really their thing, and so they haven't really been paying close attention to it. They don't really know where it's at right now. Alpha is going to be an awesome time to just, you know, hey, this is where we're at, and I think, again, like the signs that I see now are suggesting that it's going to be a pleasant surprise for a lot of people who haven't been following it as closely. So again, all these factors together, again, if it goes well, it's really the perfect opportunity to just pick up momentum, and that would be exciting. That would be a really good time to be a Pantheon fan. Oh, see, that was a whole rant. Edom is saying, I'm looking forward to when they open it up for alpha. Yeah, the Discord, that is true. That they did talk about opening up the VIP Discord to pretty much everybody, though, the whole community, when alpha comes. So again, like that as part of that outreach, Discord is a great tool to get everybody on an official platform where they can, you know, get news updates and, again, chat with the developers, chat with other people in the community. That, I think that would be a really great way to just kind of just get everybody back on the same page again, I think, which would be really important. So yeah, again, that's a perfect example of another one of the ways that I feel like the community it's going to change. It's going to change a lot with alpha, but I think it will be for the better. Hopefully they can have the server up on a semi-permanent basis. Well, it sounds like that's what they're shooting for. At least longer. I mean, they've said as much, that is their goal, to extend the length of the play sessions, because, you know, the 3-hour sessions on weekends that they've had have been fine for the purpose that they need to serve now. But yeah, when you have that many, like thousands of alpha testers that are already signed up, and there's going to be that much more content that needs testing, yeah, longer sessions will definitely be warranted. And, you know, it seems like they're already kind of taking steps toward that with the 30-hour test session that they had, what is it, like a month ago or so, or now, 3 weeks ago, as kind of, you know, preparation, calibrating, and or rather collecting data to better inform their new network stack implementation, which will then provide the framework that they need to extend the length of test sessions. So yeah, again, this is like, you can, if you really look at it, the pieces are coming together. Hey, Ziplocks, welcome. Kelem says, what's crazy is that there are a ton of people who have heard of Pantheon and yet still think it's vaporware. Yeah, it's, you know, again, from the perspective of those of us who have been following it closely and know better, it is kind of, it's sometimes kind of difficult to fathom that. But if I really sit and think about it, I can, you know, I can put myself in a situation where they're just uninformed, and alpha, again, will just be a great opportunity to inform them. And I will do, I'll be doing everything in my power to help with that. Again, you know, I'm working every day, making progress. Me and a handful of other people building the Library of Pantheon, which, you know, we have intentionally set up to be ready well in advance of alpha, so that the community can kind of digest it and get used to it, and we can get that information out there to better help the community as a whole to educate the people who are coming in, whether they've never heard of it before or they only know a little bit about it. They've maybe heard about it in the past but really don't know much about it. That is like really our primary mission right now, is just equipping the entire community with the tools and the resources that they need. Because again, it can't just be me, it can't just be Minus and Nathan. We do what we can, but even the three of us, like, we just don't have enough reach to really be able to inform that amount of people, and I just don't think I don't think that's healthy either. We need more perspectives. We need more people with the equipped with the knowledge that they will need to just teach people what they've been missing out on. Yeah, Hypercrush, actually, speak of the devil, was just talking about how's the work on the library going so far, Baz. It's going great. I'm really encouraged with the project so far. It's going steadily along. I was just working on it not even a couple hours ago. At this point, we have the framework of the whole thing. The way it's laid out is solid. And so at this point, it's pretty much just a matter of just fleshing it out, so to speak, and I guess putting the books on the bookshelves, to use a library analogy, because which is the most time-consuming aspect. It's a lot of effort, and in some cases a lot of repetition, but it's the most important part, and that's why we're not wasting our time and have already started working on it, making steady progress. I can't say enough good things about the people that I have recruited to help me with this. I think we're all on the same page. We all kind of know what we need to do, and so at this point, it's just a matter of doing it. So which is a good place to be. We had targeted like this August. Just we all kind of agreed that just felt like the right time. The end of the summer, be a good time to get that out there, and that would give the community enough time again to sort through it. And the people who want to learn can come and learn easily. Again, I don't expect everybody who's interested in Pantheon to come and spend a lot of time in the library. But again, like, the way that I look at it is, I know that there are people out there who want to know as much as they possibly can about Pantheon, but just either don't have the time or just don't know how to get that information, because it's out there, but it's just so buried, as I talk about all the time. And so the library is being designed to really just expedite that process for the people who want to be well informed, so that again they can go in everyday conversation, can go and just pass on that information to whoever they encounter that wants to listen. So that's pretty much where it's at. We've got people who are researching, like, pulling the artifacts out of the depths of the internet from Pantheon's history and putting them into the library. And then we've got people taking that information and sorting it and organizing it and bookmarking it. And then, we've got a couple people working on like the navigation of it and the overall formatting of it, and also the visual aesthetics of it as well, because I was really inspired by reading about this is going off on a rabbit trail, but I feel like it's applicable. I was really inspired by real life mega libraries like Library of Alexandria, Library of Congress in the US, and obviously the primary function, the primary purpose is to just house massive amounts of information and make it readily available to its citizens, and all the good that has done by just being a hub of information. But then there's also like a secondary aspect that I found quite interesting, especially with the Library of Congress, is how it was intentionally designed to be very beautiful and very ornate. And again, you know, in the US at the time was in its infancy, much like Pantheon is in its infancy right now, and how the Library of Congress being such like an immaculately detailed, beautiful building, so much more so than any of the other buildings that the US had at the time, it really inspired a lot of confidence in the citizens were really inspired by it, and really had a lot of optimism about the future of the country because of that. And it was and so, you know, thinking about that, you know, it might sound obvious, but that's all kind of playing into how the library is laid out. Again, it's a secondary thing. I'm not saying it's going to be this mind-blowing, like high-tech, just melt your face off type experience, because that's not I just don't think that would be a good use of time. But I also don't think it should just be a wall of text, even if it's an easily searchable wall of text. I think there's a lot of benefit to having it be just very, very enjoyable to look at, so to speak, very easy on the eyes, very beautiful. So that's kind of, again, you know, that's going to come more so later down the line. You know, again, function is first, but also just kind of in the back of my head been thinking about the aesthetics of the library and making it attractive, and it's gonna kind of I want it to feel very much like it belongs, you know, in the Pantheon universe. It's inspired by the kind of design motif that Pantheon has for their brand, but at the same time, I don't want to just mimic that and copy that either. I also have been just enjoy thinking about ways that you can kind of take that and then just kind of put our own twist on it. Because again, this is by no means an official, you know, developer sponsored thing. This is the community's. It belongs to the community. Again, this isn't even just a BazgrimTV thing. This isn't a content creator thing. This is a community thing. I have people from the community, of all types, who are helping me, you know, construct this library. And so it's and that plays into everything, including just its appearance, and that it is obviously inspired by Pantheon, but with our own little unique library twist. Anyway, that's my monologue about the library. I'm just so excited about it. I love talking about it. I love thinking about it. I'm really excited for the potential impact that it has, that the value that I think the community will get out of it when it's made public. More people filtering in. We are just minutes away. The time flies when you're having fun. We're minutes away from the developer stream starting. We will tune in. I see Philosophizer, and we DeBlaze, Raven. How's it going, guys? Nagasaki, good to see you as always. I'm gonna get my headphones ready here. I don't think they have started. I don't think they have started the stream yet. Let me check. No, they have not. Bounty Cat says, nice shirt, thanks. This is... My dad got this for me in Poland when he went to Poland for a business trip a couple years ago. Brought this back for me. Got the winged hussar on there. And with that, They are live. It's gonna add. I'll take one for the team. I'm gonna watch the ad for you. Hey, Sparrow, welcome. You're just in time. All right, let's make this full screen. Let's switch over to the watch party. There we go. Hey, Jothany. Hey, Thorndeep. Welcome, guys. Geeky One, let's go.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the June 3rd, 2021 Pantheon Rise of the Fallen development stream. I am your host, David Roenick-Schlau. With me is our creative director, Chris Joppa-Perkins. Say what's up,
hey everybody.
Chris. And coming to us via voice will be our lead programmer, Kyle Olson. Behind the scenes, Mr. Brendyn will be handling things. Tonight we got an awesome show for you guys. We're going to be talking about NPC combat tactics. Why don't we get straight to it, Chris?
Straight to it. I like it.
Straight to it.
No.
So yeah, we're glad to be back with everybody. We're here for another stream to show off some of our development progress over the last month. And this evening, our focus is on the work we've done specifically on our NPC combat AI. And that means improving and expanding the underlying systems that allow our NPCs to make interesting, effective, sometimes unpredictable decisions in the heat of battle. If you've been following our development, you know that this is a pretty significant milestone on our march to alpha. And it's something we're just super excited to share, and not just share, but to show in action. So
should we drink every time Joppa says excited?
3 of us got together last night, myself on a Dire Lord, Kyle, who's with us tonight on a Shaman, and Tyler on a Wizard. And we hopped into the Isle of Infinite Storm, and we picked a fight with some Torn Elves. And we're going to show some of that. Now, disclaimer, the Isle of Infinite Storm is a 24-person raid zone, and our measly trio was really no match. So we made ourselves immortal, and we spent that time focusing on showcasing the combat in the NPC AI, not on top-shelf execution of class play. So we're watching this footage not to see, three people taking on and conquering a raid zone by themselves. We're watching this to see specifically how the NPC AI is taking shape and developing. To do this properly, I've asked our lead programmer, Kyle Olson, to join me tonight.
Yeah, Geeky One.
We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the code as we move along, but the main attraction is in the game footage that we've recorded and we'll be showing in action. So let's get started. Kyle, I asked you to make our NPC combat AI more robust, and we don't want to just see NPCs using cool-looking abilities. We want to see them actually making meaningful decisions with those abilities, and we don't want to just see a healer NPC healing a wounded ally. We want to see them doing more than that. Maybe it's not just healing the ally. Maybe it's breaking them out of a stun or out of a mez, or maybe it's calling it nearby,
dispelling, whatever it might be.
Dispelling, exactly.
First off, let me say,
away,
my cat has decided to try and take the spotlight. I don't know if you heard her popping off a little bit there in the intro. So she pipes up. I apologize, but
she's excited.
Yeah, so we've been trying to improve how AIs respond in the heat of combat, how much of an impact that they feel like they could have in terms of a decision-making process, making them feel more alive in a way. So one of the things that we've had forever, pretty much, since we've had NPCs in the game, is the ability for them to cast ability. They've had a threat. They'll cast that ability at whoever has the highest threat. And we've had the ability to augment that a little bit, limit them so they can only cast it when things are at a certain amount of health or whatnot. But really having a true spot for a designer to create some really custom targeting logic, like targeting the third person on the hate list of this mob that is a certain class that has a certain amount of mana with this specific flag, stuff like that. So just fully custom condition creation for combat. It's kind of what we were diving into. And up until this point, it's just been an AI has a list of abilities. They'll randomly pick something from that list of abilities and try and cast it on whoever has the highest threat. Now, this new system that we've developed sort of is a jump-off point right before they begin that cast to let them choose a different person to cast on. And you'll see lots of examples of that here coming up. So can we show the first target graph? All right, so this is which one is this? This is the stun for the Eldritch, the Torn Eldritch. So this ability describes a stun that this mob will try to do on a healer within 25 yards that is already casting something. So this AI is constantly looking around it for this ability to find a healer to interrupt with its stun, essentially. So as a healer, you need to be conscious that if this guy isn't currently doing something or casting or crowd controlled in some way, if I start casting, he might look over and nuke me for half my health and stun me for 3 seconds. It's the kind of thing that we're getting at.
Damn.
Yeah, we're going to roll into the footage here. And so the way this is going to work, it's kind of we'll do a rhythm here where we'll talk a little bit about the underlying code and the node graphs that support.
That's going to make a healer's life.
Different targeting conditions.
A little more
and then we'll show it in action because that's really the best way to see kind of how this works. So let's go ahead and roll into that footage and check it out.
I hope that scales with level, like a level 1.
Sure, which was the next one?
You know, or even
a
level 8
we'll do this one first. All right, so let's talk about what's happening here.
Level.
First of all, we picked a fight with the Torn
Joppa
Eldritch.
looks badass.
And
that staff
I don't know
looks
if you
badass.
caught that, but right at the beginning, if you get too far away from the Eldritch, like
this already looks
just happened
cool.
there with Sacred, they will cast an ability called Creeping Shackles, which actually grabs you and causes you to walk slowly towards the Eldritch, so they pull you back in. Boom, there it is. Okay, so we just got the interrupt on the heal. Kyle was trying to heal, and he interrupted that heal, and now Kyle just ran behind me. I'm going to turn here and get him in view in just a second, but he just ran away, and now he's out of range, and then you see the Eldritch turns and starts pulling him back in, and while that's happening, Kyle is stunned, essentially. He can't use any abilities, can't move, and he's just pulling him straight in.
It looks like a shaman. I was gonna say it looks like a druid staff, but shaman's cool too.
I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble with that spell.
I can almost guarantee it.
This already looks fun. Now I will comment on the obvious that yes, those melee animations do still need work.
Now again,
very slow
these are the kind of foundational
this looks awesome.
Combat decisions that we want NPCs to be able to make. The degree and the frequency and the speed of like the synapse of response, it is something that can be dialed. But the point here is not to completely shut down players. Obviously, if NPCs were immediately and always shutting down heals and stunning and CCing, nothing would be able to happen. So this is in a state right now where it's not interrupting every heal, but it's something that you need to be mindful of while you're fighting. It's something that you can't just rotely I'm just going to heal all the damage that my tank is soaking up. I have to be mindful that I could be interrupted at just the wrong time, and so I need to be thinking about what are the other auxiliary abilities that I need to be using to minimize the risk of that.
The fight is entirely learnable in that sense, and you can counter and cast at strategic times so that as a healer you're not getting nuked and stunned. So it's definitely outplayable.
Exactly. Cool. All right, let's pull up the next image, and we'll talk about this one. We're actually going to go back in here. The footage we're going to show after this is also with the Eldritch, and it's going to show off a kind of a cool other aspect of their kit in combat. So Kyle, let's go ahead and talk through this one.
Sure. So this is the target enemy far away. Oh, this was the other graph that was associated with the fixate. So when somebody gets far away from the Eldritch, he will attempt to put a curse on them and fixate them and pull them back in. And this target graph describes looking for somebody in combat with an NPC that has mana that isn't already fixated, so that this NPC isn't trying to fixate the same person over and over and over, and then filtering by somebody that's within 8 to 50 meters away. And then whoever is still left after all of that filtering and culling away of who I'm in combat with, we just choose a random person, and that's who gets that cast on them. The other thing to note is that very last output target, which is sort of like, I've made a decision, here is my choice, I will output who I'm going to cast on into that node. If you uncheck that fallback to default, and we don't provide a target to cast on, the AI will completely skip this ability from being considered for casts altogether. So if you enabled that, this AI, if we don't do some custom selection logic, will just fall back to whoever their highest threat is, usually the tank, unless, Sacred's playing.
Nice. All right, let's pull up the image 3 there and talk about the next ability we're going to see in action. Cool.
All right, this is the so this is the ally purge. So if an AI sees a friendly target around them that is either stunned or mesmerized, they can use this target graph to dispel them, right? So you'll see that in the next video coming up. You'll see me attempting to mesmerize one of the extra ads that we pull. And the ad that we're fighting initially will see that and cast Purge on his friend to get him out.
Let's go ahead and pull up that video. So again, engaging with the Eldritch here.
I just noticed he's
and
level
as Kyle
44.
just said, the difference in this footage is
I don't know what level
a little bit into the
the
fight here.
group is.
We're going to get an ad.
Although it looks like it's
and
conning orange.
We're going to attempt to CC that ad.
Maybe a little lower
mesmerize
than
that
that.
ad, and then we'll
They're
see the
level 40.
Eldritch deal with that. Okay, so we've got an Eyeless that's joined the fray. Kyle's got
unintentionally getting fixated and pulled in, so I'm trying to hide in the corner.
Yep.
They're on top of those pillars. I just realized that. That's like where you come in.
Panicking over threat.
Oh, you just got stunned.
Okay, this
trying
is cool.
to heal yourself.
Yep.
He's pulling somebody into him. Yep, Kyle, you got pulled in again.
They somehow climbed
I think this
up
was
on
like the
top of
second
those
time you were
pillars.
trying to mesmerize.
Yep, I could not get it off. He kept CCing me.
I love that ability because you walk in and then you just kind of follow him
I also
around.
love the
all right, so
look at that
Eyeless,
mesmerize
Mez,
animation.
Boom, turns, purges the Mez, and the Eyeless is back in the fight.
Oh my god, they are breaking mezzes.
Again, so just for the sake, this is actually a good strategy that we have here, but for the sake of showcasing the functionality, I'm pulling the Eldritch forward a little bit to allow him to have line of sight to the Eyeless, and then he'll do the Purge again.
Wow. But you can
That's
interrupt
awesome. So
the
he's
purge.
basically dispelling the crowd control.
That's key,
Yep.
because then you can...
And
so
in the
you can
encounter
interrupt
design,
his
we
purge.
can decide at our whim, is this a full on dispel, like any kind of, CC, any kind of hard CC, it'll purge, or is this, depending on what NPC this is, maybe it's just a root, maybe it's just a stun, maybe it's not even a magic based thing. Oh, Kyle just got forgot about that part. So right at the end of this fight, do we have a way to fast forward these, or do they have to just play? They just okay. Well, let's let this run through again because you may have missed that. But right at the end, that's something you'll see a lot more as we go through this footage. Is we're actually very, very high up off the ground. So positioning is really, really important when fighting up here, especially because the Eyeless and then one of the NPCs we're going to see here in a bit have a lot of ways to knock you off of this thing if you're not careful.
Oh my god.
But yeah, at the end of the footage, once the Eldritch dies, look at the Eyeless, and you'll see the unfortunate event there.
So the Eyeless has a melee bash ability that, when it goes off, has a knockback associated with it as well.
Yep.
So I pulled aggro, and unfortunately got a bit of a knockback.
So it's cool to see that line of sight plays a part in this sort of
Definitely.
tactic as well.
Yeah, that Eyeless's shield.
Yes, you can interrupt the
want
purge. You definitely can, and so that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, where we could have done a much better job of shutting some of these things down, but for the sake of really showcasing, giving the NPCs the freedom to show off, the different things they can do, and then that's just another facet of tuning as we go along, which is how much of a kit do we want players to have to be able to shut these things down? How often are NPCs using them? But yeah, this was really meant to just showcase what they're capable of. There was one little knockback. Okay, so here we go.
Is he gonna knock off here?
We're gonna burn the Eldritch down.
You don't stand that close to the edge.
As soon as the Eldritch drops, then so does Kyle. Which
Why is he
again,
standing so
you would
close to
learn
the edge?
fighting up here like that. That is horrible positioning.
You're not even trying to get threat back. What is this?
Oh, because I want to see.
Bye.
There it goes.
Later.
Nice. All right, cool. Very cool. Let's go to image 3A. Start talking through some of these. So just to set up the context here, we're going to go to a different NPC battle. The first two clips were on the Eldritch. Now we're going to take a look at the Eyeless and the Stormblade in action. And I'll leave it at that. And let's do just a really simple overview of these, Kyle, and save like the actual reveal for what they're going to do once we get to the footage.
Sure. So really it just boils down as these two mobs have abilities that synergize off of each other. One is looking for the other one to be on a target, and if it finds it, it allows it to go off, and you get kind of an added bonus overlapping effect when it does go off. So really this graph is saying, look for somebody in 6 meters range, basically in melee range, that is currently off balance and is an enemy of mine. And just give me a random person. If there's multiple around me like that, go ahead, just give me one of them. I don't care.
Yep. And that, I mean, if you've probably heard me talk about state manipulation before with player classes, but also it's something very much that we want NPCs to have as well. And so It's a great example of state manipulation here, the interplay between the off-balance state and then actually being knocked down. So we'll see that here in a sec.
It's something to keep in mind. The playing between different states being something that NPCs do and players do, there's fundamentally no difference between an ability that an NPC casts and an ability that a player casts. We can, with GM powers, we can go ahead and slash cast anything that you see an NPC doing ourselves, and anything that you see us doing, we can slash you cast and make an NPC do that as well. So it's very shared functionality between the entire system.
Yep, let's head to the next image.
So this is a really simple one. This is just saying, give me somebody that is in combat with me that has mana. That's pretty much it. This is used by a couple different abilities that the NPCs have. But you can see they get pretty complex and they get pretty simple depending on what they're trying to do. Super
broad and then super focused, and the variety of that spectrum is what creates really interesting environments and encounters. If you have an NPC that's looking for someone with mana, then that's very different than an NPC looking for someone with mana who is a healer archetype who is currently casting a defensive ability. Mm-hmm. But that's an example of how broad and also how granular we can get. All right, next image.
Okay, so this is, give me somebody in combat that has mana that is currently not pepper sprayed right now, which is a form of CC in the game.
What?
And just give me the first person that you find that meets that criteria. And you'll see in the next video coming up, a single NPC utilizing the find random mana user and find random mana user that's not pepper sprayed to have some kind of interesting bouncing around mechanics.
Let's talk about pepper spray for a second. So when we say pepper sprayed, we're talking about it's really an animation designation. So we've got a stun or an incapacitated effect where you're stunned, you can't move, you can't perform actions, but there are different animations that govern that. So a stun looks different from being mesmerized, which looks different from being pepper sprayed, which is, this kind of like I'm holding my eyes and I'm writhing around. So it's giving us a little bit more flavor.
It's a form of crowd control with a different flavor of animation on it, right?
Right. Yep. All right, let's hit that next footage. So this is the Eyeless and the Stormhand. So this we start off this fight just the Eyeless. The Eyeless is pretty standard fare. It's a tank. He's got a kind of an armor sundering ability with strike of breaking. He's got his shoulder crash, which is stunning me, or it has a chance, a 50% chance to stun me and knock me back a little bit. And then he's got a cleave, but by itself, not anything too crazy. The issue is when the Stormhand joins the fray, then you're going to start seeing a lot of chaos for our little trio here because of the targeting graphs we just talked about, where the Stormhand is has two abilities. The smoke trick. See, okay, let me stop. So you see how I'm kneeling down there, or just got knocked down. The whole time I was fighting with the Eyeless, it was pretty standard. Soon as the Stormhand joins the fray, the Stormhand has an ability that puts me into an off-balance state. You'll see it on the little debuffs that pop up. It looks like a scale, a weighted scale. Once I'm in an off-balance state, the Eyeless is going to see that and then use his knockdown. So there's off-balance, boom, and I just got knocked down. So that's an example of the synergy that you're going to start seeing, between the different NPCs. What you're also seeing in the background there was Kyle smoke trick, pepper sprayed, and then we've got the Eyeless popping behind me with the shadow step, and then popping over to Kyle
There's
for
so
a
much going
lightning
on
blade
right now.
attack, which electrifies him. So that's what I mean by chaos. We go from a pretty standard tank and spank with the Eyeless. Now the Stormhand joins the fray. Healers are getting pepper sprayed. Healers are getting electrocuted. There's shadow steps behind the tank. The tank's getting knocked down. With the introduction of one NPC, we're seeing all kinds of new effects happening in the heat of battle here. So it creates a very cool dynamic. And what I love about it is the kind of situations you get into when a Stormhand joins the fray with an Eyeless is going to be different than if an Eldritch joins the fray with an Eyeless, or if an Eldritch and a Stormhand are fighting together. And certainly if you get into a situation with all three, it begins to prove the point of how important good crowd control is in Pantheon, for sure, and also being very mindful of what NPCs are capable of and making sure that you have auxiliary things in mind to deal with unexpected mechanics.
I challenge anyone to say that streaming an MMO would be boring. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Wait till you see the next one.
Yeah, we haven't even. Yeah, but what I love about this is, Pantheon is not an action combat game, and there's been some criticism in the past, especially in the past, about, just this doesn't look very engaging to watch. And MMOs are, I would say on the whole, they're not as engaging and exciting to watch necessarily, unless you really know the game and you understand what you're seeing and whatnot.
Well, that's the thing.
But what I love about this fight, especially when the Stormhand joins, is that it's not an action game, but there's a lot going on. And when you talk about knockbacks and what we're going to see here in a second with pushes and pulls and repositioning of NPCs, where the Stormhand shadow stepping behind me and then shadow stepping to the healer and doing a lightning blade and then throwing pepper spray out, it gets very involved, but never like frantic. It's just there is a lot of dynamic action going on at certain points, depending on what you're dealing with. And of course, the more NPCs that you can lock down,
keeps going over there.
The more you can
what's that shadow
that chaos
that keeps going over their
back
head
down to a manageable level.
That sounds like the perfect
tricks.
balance, though, where it's like you don't
Kyle
need to
again,
have
burning him down.
snap,
That Stormhand
split
is
second, pixel
a lot of fun to
perfect
fight, but man,
mouse
tough.
reactions.
Indeed.
But
Hey, at least
Alright.
Cal managed to stay on the platform. This
like
time.
there
We
is
did.
still action.
Cool. All right,
you know?
let's go to
It's action
image
without
4.
any
So
action
we're coming
combat.
up to the last fight we're going to showcase. We've actually got 2 pretty nice chunks of footage we're going to show here, super excited about that fight. But yeah, let's walk through these, Kyle.
Yes, this is an example of using a target graph to do a little bit more work than you might expect it to be able to do. So you would normally just expect a target graph to decide that I'm going to pick a target or not, and that's it. But this is, we wanted to be able to say, only cast this if I'm in combat with X or more people for a certain ability in the fight you're about to see coming up. And at the time, we didn't have a specific condition that you could just tag onto an ability and get that functionality. We do now, but we needed to just build a custom condition essentially with the target graph. So we did that. So all this says is, give me all the people that I'm in combat with, give me the number, the count of that, and check if it's greater than 2. If B is greater than A, you'll get the flow port out on the right side there of the int greater than node, and then you'll just choose a random entity and output that entity. But if, say, you only had 2 people in combat with you, then B would not be greater than A, and execution of this graph would just halt there, and you would not output a target, thus this ability would not be cast by the AI. So it's sort of like a dual-purpose target selection here. It's doing a target selection, but also doing a target selection based on conditionals that I'm arbitrarily deciding as a designer on this graph.
Nice. All right, let's hit the next image.
All right.
Whoa.
So this is actually a real ability now. This is not a target graph for an ability. This is, as an AI, I have gone through my target graph, and now I'm going to cast this ability. So you get a callback on the left there. It's different from what you saw before. It's still a green entry start node, but it's just an on-cast complete callback. The first thing that we do here is just play some visual effect. And like you saw before in some of the other ones, we do an AoE selection of all the entities in a radius around me of 15 meters. And then we filter them by my caster's relationship to them. So here we take into account things like your faction standings, like things like charm, other things that would make you offensive or not offensive to any given entity, get filtered away based on that node. And then after that, you see we actually have the ability to do arbitrary loops over collections of data. So we're feeding in a list of entities here that we've already filtered away to be enemies. And then for each person in that list, we're doing a bit of spell damage, 500 curse damage specifically. You can see we're feeding in a number there. And after that, we check to see if that was a successful hit. So if I have like an immunity on or something like that, or I fully resist the process spell damage, it won't continue past that check combat result is hit node. And then after that, so if it did successfully hit us for some amount of damage, we'll do a knockback. So what you're seeing here is effectively a melee-ish range AoE stomp ability that does a bunch of curse damage, and if it hits you, does a knockback from the origin point of the caster. And we'll see that in the next fight up here.
Did you talk about how the knockback, specifically the closer you are to the source of the knockback, the
right.
more force?
Can you flip back to the previous one really quick? So on that simple knockback node, there are a couple other options that you can see. The first toggle there is force fall off with distance. So we have a max distance that we can feed in. In this case, we're feeding in 10 meters, and a max force that we can feed in, which is how much of a knockback an entity will receive. And this could be an NPC or a player. It works on both of them. So I saw somebody ask if we could knock an NPC off of something. You can, but it's not going to be a good time, really. I'll just say that. So this allows you to fall back how much of a force is applied to an entity based on how close you are to the center of that knockback, essentially just with that Boolean. And a bunch of other stuff like interrupt casting, and if you're right near the edge of that radius, how much is the minimum amount of force that we apply to somebody, so it's never just like a little 1 centimeter nudge to them. We can give them a minimum amount of force. Stuff like that. Yeah, just other little plug and play things.
Very cool. Let's go ahead and just hop to the footage. I want to get back to seeing some things in action. So this fight, this is one of the prophets, and you're going to see very quickly that this is a different caliber of NPC. This is, again, this is a 24-person raid zone, and purposely not going into a lot of detail about, some of the context of the zone. We want to leave that some mystique intact, but this would be considered a mini boss, if you will, in a raid context. But this NPC, I mean, it really just the joy of watching this fight. So here we see the nightmarish push happening, and I'm so close to the edge. You see me spamming Essence Thief. Boom! I got it off right before I fell. Stayed in line of sight just enough to get back into battle. But then he pulls us all in, all three of us, and then there's the big explosion knockback. Beautiful ability. Positioning, again, very, very key in this fight. You've got a push that locks you in place and pushes you for the duration. And if you get, won't spoil it, but you'll see me make some mistakes here on that front a few times. But love the fact that with something like Essence Thief, the Dire Lord has a way to,
that was sick.
Clutch, get back in and not eat a death from the falling distance.
Little 20-second mesmerize on your healer back there. Only having one healer for this mini boss is not recommended. You need somebody else to dispel you out of that.
20-second mez, jeez.
Yeah. He's pulling us all in. Yep.
And after the pull-in, he will always cast that Demise. So you've got a second to blink away if you have an ability or pop an immunity or something like that. But if you run away, you won't make it all the way out of the AoE, but you will reduce some of the knockback effect that you get.
Yep. Oh, he just started to cast his mass. His mass mez. We killed him before he was able to.
And Sacred's just sitting there.
Cool. Let's actually roll the second footage of that fight.
I love that. I love the mobility. The mobility abilities actually have.
And of course,
here we go.
Decided to turn things around on me. Essence Thief did, and then he immediately pushes me right off the edge.
Rip. Is he gonna pull him back up?
Obviously, had I not been immortal, I would have died there. That would have been a wipe, a raid wipe.
We're all immortal in this fight, just because we died several times.
He does his AE pull and actually drags me across the ground down there. So again, if that happened in a real raid, there'd be some significant reshuffling going on. I just teleported back up to join back in here.
Cheater.
Yeah.
Dirty GM.
Yeah, that's right. That dispel. So the Eldritch has a defensive dispel, so that he's breaking ally out of stun or out of mez, but the Prophet actually has an offensive purge that
Demise has
two
a
beneficial
quick cast
effects,
time.
and you'll see it's pretty nasty because the Shaman especially is a hot, heavy healer, and I almost always have two hots on me ticking, and that dispel just chews them right up. Man, that Kratom ability right there, boom.
Being a healer is going to be
first
so
mesmerizes
hard.
the healer and then purges all the hots off the tank. So we can design stuff like that makes them seem smarter than they obviously are. We can inject that bit of human touch in it. Obviously you want to CC a healer before trying to dispel something. Or obviously you want to do your big AoE after you've pulled all targets close to you. It just makes sense.
I'm thinking of that shaman ability where you can mark a point for 30 seconds and then recast the ability
so he's
to
at
snap
40%
back
health.
there.
At 40% health, he does his mass fascination, which is an AE mez, and then he'll pick a random target. After that,
mez.
Oh them.
My
Chose me.
god!
There's a big threat scramble on anybody he's in combat with, so everybody has an equal chance of becoming the new high threat target.
Beautiful.
Questar, I'm guessing
Beautiful.
that you're gonna have to split into groups. So there's 3 pillars. So my guess is you have maybe 6 or 8 people go up to these pillars each.
So
that's just my
is
intuition.
I'm sure for all of you, what feels like too short of a showcase, but I think it's enough to impart the power and the implications that come from getting this in place. It's was number 3 on our March to Alpha roadmap. Doesn't mean that the first 2 things are completely done. It just means that we're working on these first 3 items in tandem. And as you can see, we've made some really, really good progress on this front. We've always talked about Pantheon being a challenging game, and up until now, a lot of that challenge has come from just ramping up simply the health and the damage capabilities of NPCs to create a sense of challenge, because we've not had the tools and the guts underneath to really flex a lot of the strategic depth that we want to see in this game. But what we're able to show now is that we are bringing some of that strategic depth up to the fore, and we are able to view our different NPCs and the encounters that we create from simple low-level encounters, which would have much more simplistic logic going on, all the way to massive scale battles, or some of the really cool ideas we have for in-game encounters, and all of the different things we can do, and the way NPCs can synergize, players can synergize with each other. Our hope really is that in the coming months that you're really going to be able to see a lot of this taking shape, like the tapestry of Pantheon's overall challenge, and the depth and the sophistication of the combat encounters really starting to take shape. So, yeah, do you have anything else you want to add on that front, Kyle, before we move into some patch notes and then a little bit of Q&A?
No, I think you nailed it. Yeah, but if anybody has questions that pertain specifically to the technical side of those graphs, feel free to ask those too. I'll be here to answer them.
Right
on. Yeah, we'll take some Q&A in a little bit here.
Yep.
That was awesome also to see, I think that was our first real kind of view of the zone. We saw some new armor there on the art side, so some cool stuff, some cool little beans there.
Yeah, I love the way that set looks.
Okay, well, ready for some patch notes? Wait, I got a song tonight.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's see if
Wait,
this
really? What?
Here we go.
Guitar and everything. Nice.
What? He's been practicing. He's been practicing like all week.
We'll see if this goes. Ready? Patch notes, it's what we've got. Okay.
What?
That's it?
Oh.
What? You only get one verse.
Oh.
Where's the chorus?
Yeah, I thought we were just getting started.
No, maybe next time.
That's
maybe we'll just build on that one.
Yeah.
From month to month. All right. Cool. All right. So there's a long list of stuff here. I'm going to go through these quickly. Feel free to pull up the VOD and go back through these more slowly if you want to get the all the details. So here we go. Added support for modifying cast times and cost per ability from buff graphs. Shaman Surging Power Mastery Upgrade is now fully functional. Wizard Arcane abilities no longer strip runes from the other schools. We had some significant updates to Halnir Cave and some of the deeper additions to that area that we've been wanting to bring online, that we've already had one pre-alpha test with those in, and our next one will hopefully see more and more players moving deeper and deeper in and uncovering kind of more of what's going on there. We've made some class-based changes. So, for example, Direlord Thresh Bleed now scales based on the target's health. Also, the Direlord Sanguine Blade ability now gives more health when the player's health is lower and less health when the player's health is higher. So, putting in a little bit more of some, weight to the decision of when to use those abilities. We have some new stats that we expose in our NPC templates and our overall tuning and balance passes that Tyler's been doing. We're at the point of starting to introduce some of the newer, not newer, but some of the secondary stats into that balancing framework. Things like special resistances, hit rating, dodge, things like that. We made a pretty significant change to our spell power, where before our spell power to actual bonus damage and healing for spells was 5-1, so it required 5 points of spell power to equate to 1 bonus point of damage or healing. And we've adjusted that to now be a true 1-to-1, so 1 point of spell power equaling 1 point of bonus damage and healing. We added a stuck and an unstuck command. We did that actually in prep for the 30-hour session to make sure players had a way to deal with unforeseen issues if there wasn't a support staff person available. Some terrain tile addressable updates, more robust line of sight calculation testing, some pretty significant changes to Wizard as well that we'll get into a little bit later when we can show some of that in action. This is just some boring stuff. Fix for stealth fading, conflicting with models that have a constant fade amount already set. We did make an adjustment to where the climate-based screen effects will be fully mitigated and invisible with max acclimation in that particular climate. We did a lot more work on the target graphs integration, which you've seen, the fruit of that most of this evening. A little bit of an update to Throne Fast with adding a few more waymaking POI objects just to help a little bit with orientation around the zone. Had our first draft of new NPC ability loadouts coming online. Again, we've looked at that tonight. Several updates and improvements to NPC rotation. So it was important to us where, for example, the Eldritch earlier, when he's going to purge a mez from his ally, he actually turns to that ally and purges it. So small thing, but a big thing. We added, filter nodes for classes and roles and sort nodes for threat. So just more kind of additions to the ability tool and the graph framework for the ability system. More improvements to entity rotation at attack targets, not just for spells, but for actual attack orientation as well. I'm going over things that are just, there's very, probably would just sound redundant. Hooked up the win system to players again. So the win system being, Kyle, that's what we actually used the win system in our push and our pull, right?
Yep, same exact systems. So it was initially built for the Sleepless Fight, but now it's just been repurposed on the newer player physics and exposed in the ability and buff tools, so we can push entities around at will with it.
Beautiful. Yeah. So it feels so good. Lots of improvements to the client's handling of different problematic situations. So handling of missing abilities, or when the client wasn't getting what it needed, how it handles that. We've fixed and cleaned up several things with client tooltip calculations for abilities. So we want you to be able to hover over an ability on your bar and see, based on your current attributes, based on your current spell power, your current hit rating, etc. We want that to all be reflected in real time on the ability tooltips, so that you know how much damage, how much healing, the duration, things like that of an ability. So did some nice cleanup on that. The immunity system coming online. So it's something that I would say probably is 90% there. We just have some testing to do before we call it fully implemented and kind of a true feature. Immunity just being things like when we have mini bosses that we want to make immune to stun or immune to CC, things like that. That's going to be coming back online soon. By the way, just if you're not a VOD person and you're not even really tracking with me anymore, I've lost you. We will be incorporating these patch notes in the producer's letter And our goal is also to have a spot on the website where we can post these and you can read them at your leisure.
Thank God.
Lots of cool animation polish. I think I saw a few comments on that. I say it almost every stream that animation polish is ongoing. You can expect that to continue. And so simple things like we made some adjustments to the non-combat idle animation. So when you're just kind of standing there, we also got it to where if you don't have a weapon equipped, your hands aren't constantly clenched. They actually relax. And so you'll open your hands if nothing is in them, and you'll close them if you're holding something. And several more several more player animation polish improvements that we've made. Cool. And then direct heals can no longer resurrect a target. So I'm sorry, healers. And some defensive code was put in around network time loops, and we have, again, just lots of AI casting and ability checks and a more robust system there for just making sure that things don't go off the rails.
I feel like with Ben here, Joppa is just
lastly,
running with it.
we have the monk being implemented. I think I am going to I'm going to say that my hope, my strong hope, and my everything as strong as I can possibly say it without guaranteeing that next stream we do, I would love for it to be a monk showcase. We're going to be getting that class in here soon, and implementation is already well underway. Monk combat resource, the chi, the chakra gates. It's really exciting. I'm so excited about that class coming online. So that's been a lot of work we've been doing lately as well, and excited for our pre-alpha testers to get their hands on that. And just to reiterate, the monk, the ranger, and the summoner are the three classes that we are focusing right now, and you can expect us to keep pushing those three classes forward until they are done as soon as we are able.
Awesome. You ready to do some Q&A here, Chris? And Kyle.
Indeed.
Yeah. You ready, Kyle? I don't know if Kyle's still... Okay.
Kurawashi, that...
the voice from above. Okay.
That 30-hour test that they announced a while back has already happened.
Will mobs run out of mana like PCs can?
There of course will be more tests in the future. I don't know if there'll be 30 hours, but...
Are there plans for certain classes to have things like crowd control break abilities where they may be able to break out of things like that push ability?
Yes, there will be classes that if they themselves are not currently CC'd, they will have some abilities to do that for other classes. And then there could also be special relics or other item-based clicky type things that could potentially, depending on the power or the potency of that particular item, could allow you to actually break yourself out of stealth or out of CC even while you are CC'd. So yes, there will be some ways to do that for others or for yourself.
I'm going to stick to questions dealing with the topic at hand, so I apologize to those of you who asked other questions. We'll get to those at another time. Okay, moving on. Are there mechanics in play to prevent unfortunate overlap of NPC abilities?
Yeah, you saw one of them with the Stormhand there. So he will not do a pepper spray or a smoke trick and an electrify blink on the same target. It looks for specific states before using them so that they don't overlap. It's up to designers to allow it or disallow it.
Awesome. Does a mob's disposition override some of this combat AI, and are there some hidden effects that a disposition may have to adversely affect how they interact with their kind? I guess the example they're saying is a wizard-hating disposition won't assist his wizard ally. Not that we have a wizard-hating disposition quite yet.
See where they're going there. Yeah, so that's actually a really good point that came to my mind a couple of times throughout the evening, and I just forgot to verbalize it. But what we've showcased tonight is it is representative of kind of the foundational game-wide infrastructure to support the full gamut of what we want to accomplish with NPC AI and all the implications that flow from that. It also is specifically the foundation for building our dispositions. So, for example, the mana crazed disposition is an NPC that is bent on. I'm thinking of like the quote from Terminator where the guy's like he's never going to stop coming. He's never going to give up. He's never going to stop to just like make the point like this is not going to end until this thing is destroyed. That's the idea with Mana Craze, is that Mana Craze NPC is going to essentially be immune to taunt, immune to any kind of like, hey, leave them alone and come focus me. They're going to dial in on a mana user and are just going to be relentless until destroyed, or CC'd or whatnot. But so that's you can already see the support for something like that in place. And the other half of the disposition implementation is the tooling to support more of a kind of a wider scale inclusion of dispositions at spawn time or when an NPC's data is set up and created, that they would intrinsically have the ability to spawn with multiple allotted dispositions at spawn time. Right now, we can say, okay, we want this particular NPC to have a chance to, have a spawner with like a normal and then a mana crazed version of it, but we want to be able to, from a more data-wise perspective, set them up with a random opportunity to spawn with any number of dispositions and so up to 3 traits at a time as well.
They can have multiple dispositions.
Kind of a rabbit trail here because the disposition and the trait system go hand in hand. And that's something we can get into in more detail when we do, a showcase on those systems. But yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, when deploying this logic, is it sort of like procedural generation for NPCs, or will there be loadouts be manually curated like per zone?
Manually curated, for sure.
Manually curated. Okay. How is the pet system progressing? Hey, who snuck that one in there?
We have not started work on the pet system yet. It's still in queue.
Okay.
Let me just verify that Kyle's here. So that's my understanding, is that while there's probably like some hooks and some like fundamental things that the pet system eventually will rely on that we've gotten in place, but as far as like actual focus on the pet system, we haven't gotten there yet. But maybe you can speak to anything that is currently in place that might be
exactly like pathing code, large parts of path calculations and things like that will be reusable. But the idea of having a friendly entity that is under your control that has a separate pet bar and abilities and auto, that kind of stuff just has not been developed at all. No.
There you go, people.
And these are major milestone things, right? So we did a stream tonight dedicated to NPC combat awareness. It's a major milestone item. We've made significant progress, and this is our chance to showcase that. When pets are ready, we're going to showcase it. When the monk is ready, we're going to showcase it. As these things come online and they're demonstrable, we're going to showcase it. So, again, we've talked through our roadmap to alpha, what those items are, and even in a prioritized sense, like this is the path we're following. So we are living in that era right now where we're developing the NPC combat awareness and AI. We're working to implement the monk, the ranger, and the summoner, and the summoner relies on the pet system. So the pet system is in the near future of implementation.
Cool. I'm a couple more here. Will the rest of the team be able to use these AI tools without needing programming assistance? I think they're worried about time here.
Yes.
Yes.
That's kind of the whole point of spending the extra amount of time developing tools like this, is that it gives designers runway to just build stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. I like this question. Any plans to scale the combat, quote, intelligence of NPCs to their actual intellect stat?
No.
Okay. We're on the short questions. We'll take one more here. So we kind of got into this a little bit. Will structures like the Blood Fountain stop that pushback ability by the NPC?
Not if it is already engaged. It can.
I think they mean like, can you put your back up to something solid?
Yeah.
So that, you definitely can do that.
You need to do that.
Definitely, yeah. Sure. And if it's at like an angle, you'll kind of slide around it and all that kind of stuff.
Now that the caveat there is that once you are, for that particular ability, once you are locked in, you can't move. So you can't maneuver yourself after you're already being pushed. You have to be somewhat anticipating it. And as long as you have something solid behind you, then you can eat that and just get pushed into the solid object. So, yeah.
Okay, last one here. Can NPCs work together for specific strategies / combos?
Oh, yeah.
Just like players can. Same mechanics, same rules, all that stuff.
In fact, plan on it. They not only can they, but...
Well, they kind of already showed that. They kind of showed that tonight.
Because I'm
in basic forms.
Again, going back to, like, how do you quantify challenge? What makes a challenging game? Well, part of what is going to make Pantheon challenging is not only what individual NPCs are capable of doing, but you're going to see us starting to leverage and push much deeper into the kind of the overall toolkit and kind of the tapestry of their options. And so, and you can expect, like, when you have a situation like we were in earlier, where we're on top of this platform in the Isle of Infinite Storm, we're dealing with a torn Eyeless, a torn Stormblade, and a Storm Eldritch. They're each formidable in their own right, but when you get them together, the kind of synergies and things that will be possible is I mean, it's not only a definite thing, and it's not only something that we're already able to quantify it and, you know, show it in action, but it's like, it's one of those things that is inspiring, like, in developing this game. Like, where can you actually take that? How far can that actually go? And what kind of interesting things can you discover? You know, we've already shown how NPC factions are real and active in the game world. If an NPC is wandering around and they wander into proximity with another NPC that's on an opposing faction to them, they'll fight it out. In the same way, like, what kind of synergies will happen when, you know, NPCs are moving into proximity with each other and able to, you know, riff off of each other and utilize different things. I mean, it's a really important aspect, one of the kind of DNA level things for Pantheon. Super exciting.
Awesome. Well, you know, as Ben always says, Pantheon is a crowd-funded MMO. If you like what we're doing here, head on over to pantheonmmo.com and, you know, give us a holler. Awesome stream, guys. Kyle, thanks for joining us. Great to have you.
Yeah, man.
Some final words from you two. Any thoughts?
I'm excited.
There it is again.
Last night was a lot of fun. You know, I'll say this: like, when you're working on a game, I started as a music composer. You know that, and it's difficult to enjoy music that you write. You can sometimes, but when you've you know, pieced and put, you know, it together, and you know it from its beginning, and it, you know, all that, it can be difficult to just sit back and enjoy it. When you're building a game, I don't know if, I mean, I'm not going to talk like this is like a common thing, but for me, I'm always aware and always trying to be honest with myself in terms of, like, is Pantheon fun to play? Like, is it fun to play? Is there any reason why I would, you know, if one day I woke up and I was completely disenfranchised and totally divorced from this project with no recollection, would I sit down and play this game and genuinely enjoy it? And I can say that last night, we've reached that point, but last night was a new, if you think of it like an extension ladder, last night was a new rung. I mean, it was a new rung. Some legitimate, I mean, just some belly laughs, some intense, like, butt clench type moments, some real senses of, you know, like, just kind of almost just watching what is unfolding and seeing it all. I mean, it was just a really significant moment, and I know as a team we're really we're really excited. So that's my last word, and onward and upward for real.
Kyle?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well said. It feels like you can sit down and design a real encounter and have it be challenging and fun. And I love sharing this kind of stuff with the stream too. So maybe if this is stuff that you guys like seeing, we can get a bit more technical music once in a while on these streams. So let us know.
Awesome. Guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, guys.
I dig it. All right. Okay. Well, I think we're all in agreement that that was the best stream that they've had in recent memory, like months. That was really, really good. Even with, even going into it pretty optimistic, I would say that exceeded my expectations as far as that really had it all, actually. The gameplay and what was shown in that, and just the way that, like, I love also the dynamic between Ronik, Joppa, and Kyle, and I thought they communicated really well. It was a good topic. It was executed well. Very pleased. Very, very pleased. So, and with the gameplay, that, I mentioned the animations, combat animations. Yes, they are coming along. In some ways, still the swings of the sword and such still, I think, need a lot of work. But if you just, that's low-hanging fruit. If you can really look past that, though, this stream had a lot of really good things going for it. Even from UI, the armor models that they pointed out, like the Direlord armor models, looked really awesome. And there were some animations actually that looked very good. Like I said, that Mesmerize animation is one of the coolest Mez animations that I've seen in any MMO, where it's just kind of like, it's like almost like a pocket watch that's just kind of like mystically dangling in midair, and then the mobs just kind of like sitting there like staring at it, watching it go back and forth. Like, that's genius and well executed. So, you can see some improvement there in the animations. So, some of them like that are like really good, perfect, and then there are other ones that still need to be brought up to that level, in my opinion. So you can tell that they're still kind of in the middle of that. But again, aside from that, the environment art, like in the Isle of Infinite Storms, we had seen that zone a little bit in the past, not from that angle though, not from the top of those pillars. It looks really cool looking down at it. And you got the lightning, you got this like blood, I think, dripping. It just all looks really put together and really cool. And then, of course, the main topic of conversation, which AI, like I said, that exceeded my expectations, I think, as far as... I think they perfectly hit the nail on the head as far as how involved combat should be. And again, we just saw a small kind of slice of it, but if I envision like a balance between tab target kind of classic MMO combat and then more action style, fluid, reactive combat that you have in a different type of MMO. If you were to kind of find the perfect balance between those two things, I think that's pretty much where they're at, in my opinion, because I really like tab target MMOs, the slower style of combat where it's more about the decisions you're making rather than seeing all sorts of flashy things and like I said, needing to react and move and twitch in like a split second. I grew up on the classic tab target MMO combat of EverQuest, and that has a special place in my heart, and it feels very very familiar and very comfortable. But I also spent a lot of time playing DDO, which is very different in a lot of ways, and in that it was there was no just like hold, press a button and it just auto attacks. Like you had to swing it, you manually swing your sword, and abilities, happen a lot quicker. And I like aspects of that as well. And so if you can bring the best of both worlds together, I think Pantheon is onto something with that here. And thinking of it from the perspective of a streamer or somebody who wants to be broadcasting Pantheon gameplay, like this is a conversation I've had with people many times, and it has come up, and I'm sure it will continue to come up. And it's a very interesting discussion as far as, is Pantheon going to be fun to watch? Well, I think we can all agree we had fun watching even just these little snippets of combat here tonight. Like there were some great moments in that. But okay, for like hours though, if I were to just sit down and just stream like several hours of playing Pantheon, is that something that like a wide variety of people would enjoy? Well, I think this is a step. What we saw here tonight is a solid step in the right direction for that. And again, no delusions about Pantheon ever having like Fortnite levels of audiences or something. Like it's just not for everyone. It's not supposed to be. But I think there's a lot of people that would enjoy watching the style of combat that we saw here tonight. But the key is, to me, the way that I look at it, the clincher is that it will be largely dependent on the host's ability to describe what's going on, what they're doing, and why they're doing it. Because even if you do, you have these like mobile abilities where NPCs are porting around the battlefield, and the players are reacting to that, and they're blinking to a different area and casting down some big AoE that has a big flashy effect, etc., etc. Like that can be fun to look at sometimes, but it doesn't really mean anything unless you know why it's happening or what's going on. Now, a big part of that, it will be I think the host's responsibility to be vocal about it, but it will also be the game will also, I think, need to be very smart in the type of feedback that it gives visually to the players. Just even if you're not streaming, just as you're playing the game, you need the game to be kind of telling you a little bit of what's going on to inform your decisions. But also for the people who, if you are streaming, for people watching at home who maybe never seen Pantheon before, to kind of give them some hints as to maybe what's going on, and the method to the madness. But yeah, I'm already kind of thinking about, okay, again, if I were streaming this combat, you'd need to, I think it would really enhance the viewing experience to even in the moment, be able to describe what the NPCs are doing, why they're doing it, because again, they're going to be making decisions based on certain criteria, and then what the players' best response is, etc., etc. Now that's a lot easier said than done. Like to be able to fluidly explain and do it and execute it skillfully at the same time is not easy. But I have a lot of hope. I have a renewed hope for combat in Pantheon after watching this. And speaking of which, too, the last time that Minus and Nathan Napalm and I all streamed Pantheon gameplay in Fortress of Air, we kind of started to. We started to kind of explore that idea of explaining what was going on because, first and foremost, yes, Pantheon combat it's more about the strategy than the quick reflexes, so to speak. And it's more like somebody, I think it was Nagasaki, said that it's like a thinker's game, which I think is perfect. It's like, I don't really want to compare it to chess, but there are some similar aspects in there where you do kind of have to be thinking a few steps ahead and be very careful in what you do and when you do it, and so because of that, when we did our last stream, a lot of people pointed out how vocal Minus in particular was being, because he was the group's scout and kind of calling the shots, and he was doing a good job of that. And what we probably could have explained at the beginning of the stream, though, is that was by design. I know some people kind of like gave him some flack about how he was kind of like overpowering the stream by kind of giving this like play-by-play running commentary, but we actually wanted to do that. We did that on purpose and agreed on that beforehand because we knew that if people are watching, if you're just watching it from home, it's completely different from if you're actually playing it firsthand. And if you're watching it, it really helps to kind of have like a narration, so to speak, as to as to what's going on and why you're doing what you're doing and the context of what you're seeing. Just, I think, makes it more enjoyable, makes it more fun, and it seems like people really enjoyed that stream. So I think we might have been on to something with that. So yeah, it's gonna be it's with and that was before they implemented this new, more intelligent AI. Like we just kind of scratched the surface of it in that stream, and so I've got to admit, I'm a little mind blown. I'm a little baffled trying to wrap my head around the potential depth of the decision making that NPCs have at their disposal, and how, I saw some comments about, it's like, just in this short stream, I was like, wow, like this game's gonna be hard. Like we're all gonna suck. Like that's not. It does not seem like it's just gonna be a trivial. Just go in, use our classic MMO spank and tank tactics, and I don't think that's gonna cut it here. But at the same time, that's also kind of exciting. I'm kind of looking forward to getting my butt handed to me, even just as like a healer, like getting mezzed, getting like prioritized for being mezzed and interrupted and stuff like that. It's like, man, that's gonna be a nightmare. But again, the satisfaction of somehow figuring out the pattern of what's going on and the best way to counter that, like that's what it's all about. But it's gonna take a while, I think, to to get there and to be, again, to know that so well that you can not only do it, but then also, again, if you're a streamer, also being able to explain that to everybody else. Yikes. Yeah, I'm a little, I gotta say, it's been a while since a stream has kind of like really stopped me in my tracks like that, but this one did it. Donler TV says less mechanical skill, more timing and decision making. Yeah, that's a good explanation. Geeky1678 says, yeah, having the AI having some actual eye is great. Yeah, isn't it? Like, I feel like the actual intelligence has been missing for so long. It almost seems too good to be true. Like, and correct me if I'm wrong. I just off the top of my head right now, even the few examples that they gave in this stream tonight, like, I can't think of any examples of other MMOs that I've played where I have noticed this like level of decision making on the NPC's part. Now that goes into the feedback aspect of it, where it's like, you know, maybe NPCs in other games that I've played have been making decisions like these, but I'm just not aware of it. And that's a big part of it, actually. The appreciation of it on the player's part comes from actually recognizing that the NPC is doing that intentionally, and that I don't think I don't think you can always just expect the player to pick up on that so quickly. So again, that's where that feedback will kind of, there'll have to be some pretty thoughtful feedback in as far as what information the player is, the game is giving to the player, to allow the player to recognize that there actually is a pattern, and the NPCs are actually doing this on purpose, and it's not just it's not just a random case by case thing. Because again, I don't remember consciously realizing in another MMO that, like, like, I'm the healer and I'm being consistently stunned, while casting a heal so that they can specifically interrupt my heal and things like that. Like, you get some very basic things, like, okay, if even in EverQuest 1999, if you were sitting down in combat to try to recover some mana, some NPCs would change their priority. Like, that would generate threat. The act of sitting down would generate threat, and it could cause the NPC to drop off the tank to target you. That's a very basic decision, but as far as, like, realizing, wow, this NPC noticed that I was casting a heal on the guy that he's trying to attack, and so he intentionally interrupted me before I could finish it. Like, again, off the top of my head, I can't think of an example of that. So that's really exciting. Ron Rain says, in its current form, it's still too hard to follow for people that don't know what's going on. I agree. Like I said, like, I'm not saying that they should just boom ship it right now, because it's not there yet, but it is very encouraging, because that's big strides, in my opinion, from the last time that we saw it, which was not that long ago. So yeah, just color me impressed, I guess, is all I'm saying. Yeah, Jace Leland says we'll have to actually pay attention, right? Isn't that weird? Like, it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be so interesting. Again, we get these people in alpha beta launch that people have never played Pantheon, maybe know nothing about it, and are maybe just coming into it expecting it to be like any of the other MMOs that have been released recently. Like, even if it's not their cup of tea, I'm confident that there's, in many cases, at least going to be this moment where it just kind of strikes them. They're like, "Whoa, this is different." Questar says it does look hard. It'll be fun to figure out. Yeah. Ron Rain says, I've never seen an MMO with this kind of AI. EQ3 was going to have AI similar to this called Storybricks, but that obviously never came out. Yeah. You know, now that you mentioned, I didn't immediately draw that connection, but now that you mention it, I think you're right. I don't really remember off the top of my head because it was so long ago. I don't remember all the details of what they were talking about, but I know Storybricks was on to some really cool things that, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of along those same lines, because it is possible. It's obviously possible. But yeah, it's just like, why has no MMO really taken it to this level before? Jothany says suck might be a few steps up from beginner. I agree, man. It's we're all gonna be in the same boat at first. I think it's gonna be kind of humbling, where it's like, but that's what it's all about. You know, it's no fun if you just walk in and it's just like a cakewalk. It's that struggle and that tension of like wanting to be good. You just, you know, you want to be good, but it's a process. Like, it doesn't just happen. Like, it's that struggle of getting there. That's yeah, it's pretty intriguing. Well, anyway, with that, I think I'm going to call it here. I'm going to call it a night here on my end. I'll have the recording of this up on YouTube hopefully tomorrow. Again, I know I was talking about the Library of Pantheon earlier, and just kind of as a reminder, because of that's taking a lot of my free time. So I'm not really working on a whole lot of other deep dive videos for YouTube, because I think my time is better spent working on just getting the raw information out for everybody to use, rather than me just putting it into my own YouTube's videos for now. So of course, again, every month we do these. The first Thursday of every month, the community watch parties, and then there's the Baz flashes that I do, which are just 1 minute quick summaries of any big announcements. Like, just recently we had an announcement that they're hiring for more positions in their art department, which is exciting. And so, you know, made a video about that, and I'll cover any like major news that comes out. But other than that, my focus is on the Library of Pantheon. So that's where I'm at right now. So I guess that's it for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and watching this. This was a blast to watch and hang out with you all. I think, in fact, I'm actually going to off stream watch this at least a couple more times all the way through to try to pick out, because I feel like when I'm running the stream and such, I miss things. Especially in this, there's so much going on. There's no doubt that I missed some things, and all those like node graphs and stuff. So I'm going to take another closer look at those. Look forward to discussing it with all of you in the community. Whether you can find me on in the Discord, the Pantheon community Discord, or Twitter, Facebook, wherever else. Hope to see you around. In the meantime, everybody, have a good night. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.